everybody. Welcome to It's in the Cards. I'm Misha. Hello to all the newcomers new to the show. Welcome. I have a great show tonight with a great guest. And one that's for a change. I had the privilege of personally meeting last year at Reader's Studio. I want to just tell everybody first off that you can join my Facebook page. It's in the cards, and keep updated on the shows and the archives to the links and who the upcoming guests are going to be, in the future shows. That way you can schedule in. You can also find tons of other great shows clicking on the show link at the top. It will give you all the other fantastic shows here at Penn that run 7 days a week. Check them out. This week, I have James Ricklef with me. And for those that may not know who he is, I want to tell you a little bit about this wonderful person. He travels to workshops and seminars and conferences. I met him in New York last year. He came all the way from San Francisco for the Reader's Studio. And he is the artist and the creator of Tarot of the Masters deck. He's the author of several books. And those are tarot affirmations, along with Tarot Tells the Tale. For those that may not know this, Tarot Tells the Tale has recently been re-released as a new edition, and it is with the title Tarot Reading Explained. We're going to discuss those books along with the way readers have different ways of reading, how one reader differs from another, because there's lots of expectations that clients tend to have out there when they're getting a reading. They come pre-planned and thinking what their reading's going to be about. We're going to discuss that, and we're going to come up with a lot of great ideas that James has come up with on his site, on his blogs that he does, and his newest and latest one that he's worked very, very hard on. I want to just welcome now James, and let's get the show on the road. We're going to have a busy hour.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Misha.
It's a pleasure having you.
Can I correct you on one tiny little thing?
Yes.
I think I heard you say that I'm based in San Francisco.
Right.
Not true. I'm in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, okay.
Yes.
Right. I was looking at the San Francisco Symposium, and...
Yes, I go to that sometimes also.
Right, okay. Let's get... What shall we start with? Because you just do so much. Your latest blog that you took a lot of time with, that you've done, and like I said, I had the privilege of being able to meet you last year, and as well as getting a reading from you and attending one of the classes that you had at the Reader's Studio last year.
Yes, I did a workshop at the Reader's Studio last year. That's right. So I don't know. What did you want to ask me about? Where did you want to start?
A brief background on, so that those not familiar with you, James, how you got started in tarot.
Okay. Well, I started working professionally in tarot about 12 years ago. The first book that I published was Tarot Tells a Tale, as you mentioned, which I have revised and re-released now and self-published as Tarot Reading Explained after it went out of print. Let me give you a little background about that book. there's some interesting stuff that went on. About 12 years ago, I was writing a column for the American Tarot Association's newsletter, where I was featuring little readings that were supposed to be intended to be instructive. What I did was I would do readings for fictional characters or historical figures and do a reading for them, a short 3-card reading, just because I didn't really want the article to be, voluminous. And people really seemed to like it a lot. I mean, it was very entertaining because I would do them for fictional characters or historical characters that people know. And so I had done a whole lot of those, and I decided to write a book collecting all of those, which eventually became Tarot Tells the Tale. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do that was because there wasn't anything else out there like that. And it was something that I really would have liked to have had when I was learning how to do readings. You have books that tell you this card means this, and that card means that. And you have, spreads, and it says, okay, here's a spread, and that's it. Okay, but how to actually put that all together and do a reading, was something that I thought would be very valuable for beginners. And so I collected 21 or 22 actually, of the readings that I had done. I then put a commentary with them to say why I used this particular meaning for the card and so on. But and by the way, these were real readings. I didn't say, oh, I'm going to consciously pull this, use this card and this card and this card. I did the reading as if I were really doing a reading for someone sitting across the table for me. And then I did a commentary on it to explain it. And then I also added an entire beginning section on how to do readings. And I added card meanings at the end, so that you could look that up and see different meanings for the cards. And, that seemed, people really liked it. I know a lot of people that teach classes that tell me that they have their students get that book, and it's also very entertaining because the readings are not for Jane Doe who happened to come to you, and so nobody else in the world knows who she is and knows her backstory and knows why, what's going on with that, as opposed to the readings that I did, like, for example, for Abraham Lincoln, or for Beauty and the Beast, or I did one for the tortoise, the tortoise and the hare that ran the race. And, so they're very entertaining. They're amusing in some points. And I really think that people learn a lot better when they're being entertained than when they're being kind of bored. So that's the history of how I came up with Tarot Tells the Tale, which is now Tarot Reading Explained. I did something very similar. Well, but let me also add in Tarot Tells the Tale and Tarot Reading Explained, I also added a reading using a 10-card Celtic Cross spread, just because that's so ubiquitous. Everybody uses that. So I wanted to also have... Well, I'm using the generic everyone, not the literal everyone. And so then I also did a book called that Llewellyn published, and they titled it Tarot Get the Whole Story. That I think they should have named it Tarot Spreads Get the Whole Story, because it's a whole bunch of new spreads and a whole variety of spreads, and it teaches you how to create your own spreads. Well, as opposed to most books that tell you, here's a spread, and here's another spread, and so on, for each spread, I gave a sample reading with that spread, and then the commentary again on why I did what I did in the reading. So that's Tarot get the whole story, and it is like a second volume to go with Tarot Tells a Tale. So those were the first two books that I had published, and that's kind of how I really got, into, the tarot community and so on.
And a perfect example of what I meant when I said you come up with the most interesting things to do.
Thank you. Thanks.
You really do. You come up with great ideas. You have on the ongoing as well, and I'm going to bring this up too because we've discussed this before. How you do the quote, them pair quotes up to a tarot card, and what you tend to see all the time is people think of maybe a movie title or a book title or something based on what the book was about, and the most common one is music lyrics or actual songs to fit a card. But you don't do any of that. You do actual famous quotes.
Yes. Well, one of the features on my blog is pithy tarot meanings. And so I often will post there a little, phrase or a short sentence that's a pithy tarot meaning. And sometimes it's things that, have come up for me, but often it is something that I found a quote that I thought, this quote really works great with this particular, with this card.
Right.
So, I use quotes a lot in that because I think that quotes have a lot of meaning. I'm not just, putting in there a quote from, someone that I heard say something, although that could, come up too. But, I'll give you an example. And this was from a couple of days ago on my blog. I read a quote when I was reading a novel by Thornton Wilder. It's a great book called Theophilus North. And the quote that I found is this: envy plays a large part in censorious morality. And that just made me think of the Queen of Swords. Yep. She's the Queen of Swords sometimes sort of seems like a very moralistic kind of person, if you ever watch Saturday Night Live and remember Church Lady, Dana Carvey doing the Church Lady, that kind of reminds me of the Queen of Swords.
Yep, you're so right.
And so, I saw that quote and I thought, that works great for the Queen of Swords. And I thought that works well as a pithy meaning for the for that card. Okay. Do you want me to keep talking while you take a sip of water there?
Go right ahead.
Okay, let me also say about the pithy tarot meanings, what I say is that the very pithy meanings, they're short, they're easy to remember. I try to make them something that'll stick in your head, that's memorable. And I hope that they stimulate people to have further insights when you call that to mind. And in addition, it's something that's kind of fun, and I think that people really learn more when they're having fun.
They do. And it's a different twist, like I said, which you do all the time, including your latest blog that you've done.
Oh, Misha, this is a tough day for you, isn't it?
So I am so sorry. You want to discuss the latest project that you did?
The how does it work?
Yes, because that is going to lead into how each of us read differently, and the clients out there really shouldn't have expectations. Like, mediums inform the people, don't go to them expecting a specific loved one to come through, because you might get somebody you're least expecting to be the one that ends up coming through.
Yes. The project, I'll just briefly state, is a project that I did on my blog. I contacted a whole bunch of people and that are, in the tarot community, tarot writers like Mary Greer, Rachel Pollack, Lon Duquette, Don Michael Craig, Robert Place, and ask them this question: how do you think tarot works? And ask them to just send me a short answer, a couple paragraphs or something.
Right.
And so they all sent me back. Well, I asked a whole lot of people, and some people, weren't available. But I got, I don't know, I think about a couple dozen responses.
You did. I was going to say about 15 or so.
Yeah, something around this, maybe about 20, something like that. And I put them all together, and it was so much that I couldn't do that as one blog post. I did it then as 2 blog posts.
Right.
So I did half of them in one post and half of them in the other. So that was really interesting. It was very interesting because there was a variety of meaning, of ways that people have on how the tarot works. And I think that that's very indicative of how different people use the tarot.
It's our own way of reading as well.
Yes. So I would invite people that are interested in that to go to my blog and look that up. You can find my blog at jamesricklef.wordpress.com. I will spell my name JamesRicklef, and that's F as in father, all one word, jamesricklef.wordpress.com, and look for how does tarot work. The posts are earlier this month. There's one. The first part was, I believe, May 3rd, and the second part was May 4th. And just read all the different ways that people think that the tarot works. It's kind of interesting. It's fun. I also put my own thoughts in there, and just put it together. It is very interesting because everybody has a very different way of using the cards. They have a very different way of assuming that the cards work. Some people use them just as, like a very complex Rorschach ink blot, if you know what that is.
Yeah.
Where you use this random image that comes up, and it stimulates your creativity. It stimulates your subconscious mind to come up with answers that you wouldn't have otherwise come up with. And other people, say that that the universe is directing the right card to you with the right meaning. I kind of have a hybrid approach. I'm a Libra, so of course I do. And I think that it kind of works as a random image, but those images have meaning. So it's not like a Rorschach ink blot where there really is no inherent meaning in those images. There is inherent meaning in the cards that you get, and so I think that something is directing that, but also the images do stimulate just a lot of your own insights that are inside of you, because I think that everybody has their own wisdom inside of them. It's deep down there, and it sometimes takes a little digging to find it and to access that. But I think that we all have the answers within us that we need.
Another big problem is we don't necessarily want the wisdom that we know is really what's going on. We want things to be a certain way, and we don't want to listen to that, the truth.
Well, yes, there is a huge factor of your ego gets in the way, and that's why you go to someone else to do a reading for you.
Exactly, like I did a reader studio to you.
Yes. So when I do a reading for you, for example, I don't have an ego investment in what the answer is.
Along with no personal emotional involvement either.
Exactly. Right.
Just that's going to a third party, throwing a situation at them.
Right.
Somebody that can be neutral. They might be your friend, but if they're a true friend, they'll tell you the truth. and not what you want to hear.
Yeah. Yes. Now, of course, hopefully they will do it with some sort of tact and delicacy and kindness too. That's a big part of it. But yeah, that's why it's so difficult to do a reading for yourself. Because the answers will come up there in the cards, but your ego will be shouting down your intuition. Your intuition will have the answers, but your ego will say, I know what I want that card to mean.
Right.
Or it'll say, I know what I'm afraid what fear I have for that card.
And somebody just made a remark, something to point out, because we do get this a lot, that, we're of the devil and it's evil. And they're pointing out that they know somebody that won't do the tarot cards because it's of the devil and it's evil, but angel oracle decks are fine to do. And
okay, I'm not sure quite, how they differentiate. I mean,
I guess they figure
if one set of cards is work of the devil, then, the devil could just as easily be, created. In fact, it'd be more likely because, that's kind of subtle there to, call them angel cards.
Right.
It's just, if you think that the cards are the work of the devil or something, then don't do them. Right. That's fine, but they are just pieces of, little pieces of thick paper and with ink on them, and they're like any tool. You can use the greatest tool on earth for bad things, or you can, or good things. It just, I know a lot that there is something called the Westboro Church that uses the Bible in the most heinous kind of way. And, they go picketing funerals and stuff. They're just abysmal people. And no one is saying that because they're using the Bible, that the Bible must be evil. It's what you do with it, what your intent is. And for me, my intention with using the cards is to help people enrich their lives. And, like my little catchphrase is that I'm a fortune helper, not a fortune teller. Yes. That I'm trying to help people, and also to give them the benefit of the spiritual insights that I have found through my studies. And that's another thing that I have on my blog, is I have a whole lot of spiritual meanings for the cards.
Right. Yeah.
Which I'm collecting into a book that I'm working on right now.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. To keep me updated, and when that's going to be, out there, we'll have you on to promote the new book.
Yes.
I'm sure it's a while in the making, though.
It's been very long in the making. In fact, that was, if you recall, the content of my workshop at Reader Studio a year ago was spiritual meanings of the cards. Because the cards have this huge, you could have a 78 volume encyclopedia where each volume of the encyclopedia is all of the different nuances and meanings for one of the cards. And there are, spiritual implications that you can see in any one of the cards too. Right. And so I try to, help people get a more spiritual life by having a spiritual meaning, if they're open to that. I'm not going to bludgeon anybody with something and try to force them to look at things in a certain perspective that they may or may not be comfortable with.
Right. But a lot of people are shocked with that. I was going to the fact to just pick up one that people tend to get shocked by, the Hierophant.
Yes, the Hierophant card.
The Hierophant is most symbolic, if we're talking in religious terms, to the Pope.
In old decks, it was called the Pope.
Right. Mm-hmm. And
yes.
People are, when you point these things out to them, they are totally amazed. And they just sit there like, really? Are you making that up? Because they hear all the time of how it's of the devil. Another one for
Well, that's because
like
there
the
is a.
Palm Sunday is the Six of Wands,
I'm sorry.
representative of Palm Sunday when Jesus
Oh.
came
Uh-huh.
into on the donkey and they were on the roads waving the palms to him. To me, that is a card depicting that.
It can be. It can be. I think that it's interesting that this is a funny story that I heard, is that the tarot deck was originally 600 years ago, or whatever, used for playing cards.
Yes.
And at that time, the Pope was the name of the Hierophant. Okay, it's relatively modern invention of calling it the Hierophant instead. Okay, and a lot of people have pointed out that the church didn't really object to the tarot deck, but they did object to having the Pope be one of the cards and having it be card number 5, which means that cards number in the trumps, cards numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 21 could trump it. So it wasn't the highest card. Now, I'm not sure how true that is, but
That's funny. That's funny. I've never heard that end of it.
I'm sure that that's just an apocryphal story, but the old decks did call it the Pope. And the interesting thing is also that the High Priestess was in a lot of the very ancient decks called the Pepess, or Popess rather,
Right.
meaning the female Pope. And there's all sorts of little, legends that there was at one time a female Pope. Whether that's true or not, it's open to conjecture.
Right.
But now it's called the High Priestess and the Hierophant. In a lot of other decks now, they might call it the High Priest and the High Priestess. Yeah, but yes, the thing is that there is also a devil card, and so I think that some people are saying, oh, it must be the work of the devil because it has a devil card, and oh, by the way, the devil card is number 15, so it does trump the Pope, which is number 5.
Right.
But the devil card is not saying, if the devil card comes up, it's not saying, "Ooh, you should be evil" or something. I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's about a lot of other types of things, just like the death card. It's not saying that someone's going to die, because there's only 78 cards, and if every time the death card came up, somebody was going to die, I'd have dead bodies all around me from doing readings. It means there's an ending, a transition or something like that. It has a lot of other sorts of meanings. Not that it can't ever discuss the topic of death, because I have had it come up. Like one time, I did a reading for a woman who was recently widowed, and the death card came up. Because she was dealing with that issue. Of course.
I had it. A woman still grieving over her son.
Yes.
It was actually the first time that I knew this was about a physical death. So I was, doing the reading and evading that because I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to get into health and somebody dying. And then, it was just, I needed to discuss it, and I realized this is a past death. And I just looked at her and I said, you had a close death recently. And she looked at me and she said, well, a year ago. And she started crying. And I said, okay. Yes. I said, it might be a year ago, but it's still highly affected you.
Oh, and especially if it was your son. Yeah. Yeah.
It turned out it had been her son.
Yes. Yeah. On the other hand, I mean, one time I was doing a reading for someone, and the death card came up, and I said, well, I don't see it as being that somebody has died or whatever. I see it as transition. Have you had a large change, a very significant change in your life in some way that is really affecting you. And the guy said, no real change. And I went, okay. So I said, well, let's just keep that in mind and keep going. And then as we're talking, it turns out that he had just had a major job change, that he had lost his job. He had to go to a different company and was dealing with all that change, everything. And I was going, well, I think that's the major change.
Hello.
But I mean, it's not that he was trying to lie about it, but it just didn't strike him that was, the significant change. But it was a big issue in his life because he had to go to a smaller company and he was a lesser position, and it was, where a new job where everybody else had been there 10, 15 years, and so he was like the new kid on the block, and so he felt left out. So it was a huge issue for him, that transition. So
now, one thing I want to touch on as well, we all have different styles and ways of reading. For instance, I won't use set spreads, and for the most part, what I saw, you don't either. You didn't
sort
for
of.
me anyway.
Yeah. Right. Usually not. I think using set spreads is sort of like a phase that you have to go through. It's that you have to learn that. When I first started, I did. I learned, the Celtic Cross and various specific three-card spreads and so on. And in my book, Tarot Get the Whole Story, I present a whole bunch of different sorts of spreads. Once you use them enough, you then can start being a little more organic with your spreads and adjust them a little bit, And so a lot of the spreads that I use now, I will start with perhaps a basic spread, and then I'll add to it. I may start with, for example, depending on what the question is, a 3-card past, present, future, and then as questions come up, I'll expand on those cards or something.
We have a similar way of reading, but except I never was able to get into the Celtic Cross and all of those. It was too boxing me in. I felt as though I wasn't able to put them together to get the information to help the person. Because we're not just there to give them yes or no and, wrap their life up in a package with a pretty bow. We're there to teach them and show them there's alternatives. There's choices. There's decisions to make, what they are, and what they need to be aware of when they're deciding. Because, they may know they have choice A and choice B, and they're completely stuck. Well, let's see what you have to look at. What you need to know. What you need to be concerned about in the decision. What you might be missing to help them decide. Because we're not here to make their decisions either. Because I've had that, aren't you going to tell me which one? And I'm saying, sometimes wasn't it obvious with the info that came out? But no, I'm not going to make the decision. I'll give you the information and the background on each choice.
Right, and I think that if somebody wants you to make the decision for them, part of that may be that they have just all through their life been sort of disempowered, where other people have made decisions for them. But also there's the issue of, if the tarot reader makes this choice for me or this decision for me and things go wrong, I'm not to blame. They are. and I don't want that. But I also want people to be empowered to make their own decisions. And if I make the decision for them, they're then going to not build that sort of strength and independence. So, I mean, that's a good point. And a 3-card spread that I really like, because I use 3-card spreads a lot when I work parties, okay? Because, you can't do something big and involved. You've got to do the boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And so if somebody has some sort of decision thing, like should I do choice A or choice B, okay? I will put down 3 cards, and card numbers 1 and 3 will be, card 1 will be about choice A, card 3 will be about choice B, and a middle card between them will be something else to help them make that decision.
That's basically what I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then if I'm doing a much more elaborate reading that's not, a quick reading at a party, I have a very detailed spread that's in my book, Tarot, Get the Whole Story, that is a much more complex version of that, where I have, considerations about A, considerations about B, advantages of A, advantages of B, disadvantages of A, disadvantages of B. It's a lot more cards like that. Yeah. But that's what I try to do, is just illuminate the 2 options and then let them see their choice based on that. And it's really interesting. Sometimes when I do that, like you said, it can be very obvious. You can have the card or cards that are concerning choice A, just like our whoopee, and this is great.
All swords and the bats and the 10 of swords and the 3 of swords.
and then the cards for the other choice are, really dark and gloomy, But then sometimes it's, really a toss-up, the card for one and the card for the other, or it's like, well, it's and
doesn't
so
really matter.
Yeah, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, and that's why I like to have a card in the middle. This might help you make your decision.
Right, or what you need to know about or think about. Right.
That. Yeah. So, for example, one question that I've had is, should I stay at this job, or should I take this other job, that opportunity that I have that involves moving? This other. So, I have one card that talks about staying at this place, and another card that talks about moving and, going to this other place and taking this other job. And if they're kind of like, well, there's not a big difference between them, but then you have a middle card, and let's say it's the 10 of Cups. And so that might say, yeah, but you have to consider how that move might affect your family.
Your family, the kids, if you have children, changing schools, things like that, even maybe elderly parents or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I like to have that kind of thing, to kind of, tip that balance if you may need that. But yes, I definitely don't want to tell people this is the choice you should make.
No, don't want to do that at all. There's also a lot of people out there that do not use reversals.
Reversals are an interesting thing. When I'm teaching a beginner class, I start off with just the upright. I don't talk about reversed meanings, and because I want them to start simple and easy. And I say, look, there's this range of meaning in all the cards, and then in a more advanced class, I'll talk about reversals. I do talk about reversals and use reversals in both of my books, that have the sample readings, just because I want to, give a more complete view on that. And when I first started, I didn't really use reversals right at first, but then I got into seeing how you could use the reversals. And it really does complexify the reading, and if I can make up that word, and it complexifies the process. But then there came a time when I realized I don't really need the reversals anymore. I can see that entire range of meaning for the card. One of the things that I tell people when they're studying, new students, is that a reversal can mean that the energy of this card is lacking and you need more of it. Okay? But I now can see all of that, and so again, it's like using spreads. I think that it's something that you really need well, maybe, you didn't really do it, but I think that it's very valuable to teach students and teach people, and to do that at first, to have this structured spread. But then once you get really good at that, you can start being a lot more fluid with things,
Right.
and with the card layouts, and dynamic with that. Same thing with using reversals. You can come to a point where you go, well, I don't really need to have the card come up reversed for me to know that there's this issue with this card, instead of it just being, straightforward.
Right, right. And a lot of people think a reverse card just means it's the opposite of the upright, and then there's also some that believe it's the same meaning as the upright, but in a larger extreme. Maybe,
Okay.
I've heard that thought.
Yeah, and the thing is, however you want to do it is fine, but just make sure that you set up that intention going into it, and that you kind of have this agreement with the universe that when the reverse meaning means that, for example, that the energy of this card is being blocked. That might be it.
Right, and the same thing with timing for the suits, with which season. There's a few different ways people do it. Now, what worked for me was that the wands is summertime, because wands is fire, summer is hot. Swords is air, and for me, I related that to the leaves falling off the trees and blowing the air, the wind. So the swords is fall. The cups is spring. Pentacles being the earth. Winter, when the earth is the most solid and frozen and cold.
Right. Also, with the cups, another way to remember that is April showers, the spring showers with the water and so on. Yes.
Right. Yeah, but some people do the cups as summertime, because the waters are unfrozen and freely go. But for whatever reason, that did not work for me. I just immediately knew, for me, cups was going to be springtime.
Yes, and again, it's what agreement you have made with your intention with the universe for how to, you've said, okay, universe, if you want this is how it works for me, and and even card meanings too. I mean, I know some people think that, well, this card has to mean this or whatever. But somebody that I knew a long time ago when I was first learning, somebody that I became good friends with, she had some of the weirdest meanings for some of the cards. But on the other hand, she was fantastic reader. I remember I had this party once where I wanted to, have a get together for a lot of tarot readers, and so at one point then she was there, and she said, I've got to go, but I thought I'd do something really fun for everybody. Everybody pull out one card, and I'll go around and go, bing, this card means this for you. Bing, this card means that for you. And she did that, and it took like 10 minutes, 10 minutes. She ran around and did, this just hit and run kind of reading for each person. And when she was done, everybody's jaw was down. She's great, but she has weird, strange, but they work for her. That's how she set up, the intention for her. So, that kind of that was a great lesson for me. It's like, wow, what works for you is what you've got to figure out. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't study with people. That doesn't mean you shouldn't read books, because all of that sets up possibilities for you. And then you just pick out and say what works for you.
We have a question that just popped up in the chat room. When reading the cards intuitively, aren't the meanings applied to each situation?
Okay. Let me see. I'm not quite sure what the intention of that is.
I'm at the question myself, and I believe what is being asked is, when reading intuitively as opposed to just having set meanings memorized. The meanings are applied based on the situation and what we get intuitively. Because for a reading that I have, say, that I do for you, you know, the devil might mean addiction and being trapped, where on somebody else, you know, it means that they're feeling stuck in a situation and not able, and it's what we get intuitively. I believe that's
okay. It's a little bit, the question's a little bit difficult for me to address because I always do that. You always apply the card to the situation. Of course you do. Okay. It's not like I.
Read is what they're saying. In other words, say again. A one same card coming up for, say, two different people could be a different meaning each time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
Because
the standard. That's why people throw away the book.
Because I don't think that any one card has one meaning. Like I said, it's basically a 78-volume encyclopedia. Okay? Here's my analogy. Okay? I hope that this will explain it. This is the way that I see reading working for me, is that as I've been studying this over the years and years and years, I have accumulated this vast amount of information for what the cards may mean. So in the back of my head, way, way, way in the back, I have this card catalog. You know, I mean, if you remember going to the library and they had card catalogs, and it's like there are 78 drawers, okay, and in one per card, and in each drawer there's all these little cards for what the card might mean. Okay, and there's this a whole bunch of meanings. So when a card comes up, my intuition goes back in the back of my head, pulls, you know, it's card number 12, and so it pulls, you know, the 12th drawer, the card catalog drawer, and it goes through the little cards there and pulls out one, goes, this is what it is, and it trots into the front of my head and it says it means this. Okay, right. And so that comes out, and it is my intuition doing that and applying that to the situation. That does not mean, however, that every once in a while something totally new comes up out of the blue. And I'll give you an example of that. I was doing a reading once for someone, and they were asking about their business, and the World card came up, and just out of nowhere, and this happens out of nowhere, what popped into my head was, I see here, because I mean, and this is not totally out of nowhere, because the what came up was the World card, and the World card has, you know, traditionally, the figure in the middle, and then the four things in the four corners, right?
Right.
But I'd never really come up with, thank you very much, but I'd never come up with this exact way of phrasing it. And I said, what I see is happening in your business is it feels like you've got all the pieces to the puzzle, but you don't know how to put all of them together. Okay? Yes. So you can see how that works with the World card, because it's about unity and wholeness, but it's also those pieces there. So you don't say, oh, that's totally, you know, weird for that card, but at the same time, I don't know. Have you ever thought of it that way? I hadn't. You know.
No, not at all.
Okay.
And not at all. And there were Illuminati's in the chat room, and
let me finish the story.
So big going global.
Wait, please let me finish, because the story's not over. The story gets better. The story gets much better. So I say to her, what I see here is that you feel like you've got all the pieces of the puzzle, but you can't put them together. And she gave me this shocked look, and she said, because I was doing this reading at a party, okay, and so this, and usually when I'm doing a reading at a party, people have never had readings before. It's just, hey, this will be fun. And she gave me this shocked look, and she said, on the drive over here, because the business was hers and her husband's, okay. And she said, on the drive over here, we were talking about our business problems, and she said, I said that exact thing to him. I said, it really feels we've got all the pieces to the puzzle, but we just aren't putting them together.
Right.
Okay. So, my intuition did pull out a meaning for the card that is totally outside of that card catalog.
Right. Right.
But it does fit the card and applies to the situation. Okay, I'm sorry. Now go ahead. What was
that's okay. Somebody in the chat room was pointing out that they might see it as going global with the business.
Okay.
There's another take. So much more
yeah.
I want to discuss with you, but we're running out of time here. We're down to 4 minutes left.
Okay.
So we want to throw out there to everyone again your books that you have out, as well as you want to go visit his blog site, James's blog site for sure, because there's just so much info. Can they order the books right from your website, James?
Okay. They can order the books from Amazon, or from the ones that I've self-published, they can order from the publisher, which is Create Space. But they go to my website, and on my website there is a place to click, a tab at the top for products. And if they look at that, they can click on Tarot Affirmations. That's one of my books. The Tarot Coloring book, Tarot Reading Explained, Tarot Spreads book, or my Tarot of the Masters deck. The only one that I sell myself is the deck, Tarot of the Masters.
Okay.
Okay? But any one of those, if they click on those, they will get links to Amazon and to the actual publisher, Create Space, if it's published through them, and they can order them through either of those places.
Okay, very good. And I would love to have you back on.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's always fun. You're so down to earth, and
thank you.
It's so much fun just being able to hang out with you last year in New York.
Yes.
Hope we'll be able to both be there again at the same time in the future.
Yes, that would be great. So.
I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank all of the listeners and viewers that came this evening. Thank you very much. You can find the Facebook page. It's in the cards to keep track of the upcoming shows, as well as the archive links. And it's Tarot by Misha. You can email me, tarotbymisha@aol.com, and my website's tarotbymisha.com. I want to wish everybody a great and fabulous week, and hopefully, you all take care. Be safe. See you next week. Good night.
Good night.
Let's get. What shall we start with? Because you just do so much. Your latest blog that you took a lot of time with, that you've done. And like I said, I had the privilege of being able to meet you last year, and as well as getting a reading from you and attending one of the classes that you had at the Reader Studio last year.
Yes, I did a workshop at the Reader Studio last year. That's right. So I don't know. What did you want to ask me about? Where did you want to start?
A brief background on, so that those not familiar with you, James, how you got started in tarot.
Okay. Okay. Well, I started working professionally in tarot about 12 years ago. Um, the first book that I published was Tarot Tells a Tale, as you mentioned, which I have revised and re-released now and self-published as Tarot Reading Explained after it went out of print. Um, Let me give you a little background about that book. There's some interesting stuff that went on. About 12 years ago, I was writing a column for the American Tarot Association's newsletter, where I was featuring little readings that were supposed to be intended to be instructive. What I did was I would do readings for fictional characters or historical figures and do a reading for them, a short 3-card reading, just because I didn't really want the article to be, voluminous. And people really seemed to like it a lot. I mean, it was very entertaining.
I met him in New York last year. He came all the way from San Francisco for the Reader's Studio. And he is the artist and the creator of Tarot of the Masters deck. He's the author of several books. And those are tarot affirmations, along with Tarot Tells the Tale. For those that may not know this, Tarot Tells the Tale has recently been re-released as a new edition, and it is with the title Tarot Reading Explained. We're going to discuss those books along with the way readers have different ways of reading, how one reader differs from another, because there's lots of expectations that clients tend to have out there when they're getting a reading. They come pre-planned and thinking what their reading's going to be about. We're going to discuss that, and we're going to come up with a lot of great ideas that James has come up with on his site, on his blogs that he does, and his newest and latest one that he's worked very, very hard on. I want to just welcome now James, and let's get the show on the road. We're going to have a busy hour.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining me tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me here, Misha.
It's a pleasure having you.
Can I correct you on one tiny little thing?
Yes.
I think I heard you say that I'm based in San Francisco.
Right.
Not true. I'm in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, okay.
Yes.
Right. I was looking at the San Francisco Symposium, and...
Yes, I go to that sometimes also.
Right, okay. Yeah. everybody. Welcome to It's in the Cards. I'm Misha. Hello to all the newcomers new to the show. Welcome. I have a great show tonight with a great guest. And one that's for a change. I had the privilege of personally meeting last year at Reader's Studio. I want to just tell everybody first off that you can join my Facebook page. It's in the cards, and keep updated on the shows and the archives to the links and who the upcoming guests are going to be, in the future shows. That way you can schedule in. You can also find tons of other great shows clicking on the show link at the top. It will give you all the other fantastic shows here at Penn that run 7 days a week. Check them out. This week, I have James Ricklef with me. And for those that may not know who he is, I want to tell you a little bit about this wonderful person. He travels to workshops and seminars and conferences